getting into a debt for having a wedding. This is very common nowadays. Getting ahead of themselves are like,
Right.
people who are earning probably half of my income or 1/3 of my income are driving same car, if not bigger car.
Wow.
And I was very shocked when I see this kind of thing, right? I mean, I understand you want to be in YOLO,
Yeah, YOLO and you want a
be
symbol
good
status.
to yourself and all this thing, but it's not wrong as long as it's manageable. But I think what people are missing is the opportunity cost that comes with it. Right? Yes, you are okay. You are able to pay all this every month, but that car is not gonna grow in value. If anything, it's gonna depreciate.
Yeah.
Everything that you buy, apart from stocks and all that, investments or properties, they're gonna depreciate in value. The moment you touch them and bring them home, they already drop.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, but people are spending primarily on those things that drops in value rather than grow in value.
Is it?
Of course, and lower barrier to entry to buy. Right now, you can buy anything.
Before we begin the podcast, have you gotten your free ebook? It's called the Build a Six-Figure Portfolio Guidebook. Now, inside it, we share with you the tips and tricks to bring your stock investing skills to the next level. The best part, it's only 10 pages long and it's totally free. Whether you're on Spotify or YouTube, the link to download is in the description, or you can go to www.firl.co/FREE or www.firl.co/free. Welcome everybody back to the FIRL podcast, best place for long-term stock investors. Now today we will talk about long-term investing, but it will not be about stocks. And today we have a very interesting guest, very interesting guest to tell you all about property investing and her life, how she came to be. Now, what will we be talking about? So we'll talk briefly about what are some of the important money concepts that you need to get before you even get into any form of investing, right? Then we're also going to talk about her stint in the corporate world and why actually she decided to leave. And I know many of you either starting out or already in 5, 6, maybe 10 years into your corporate career, and you think you're making that switch, but maybe you lack the confidence right now, or you're unsure, there's a lot of uncertainty. So this podcast will address that. Then we talk about property investing. So whether you're a fresh grad, whether you have some spare money on the side and you're thinking into getting into property investing, and you want to know what are some of the tips and tricks, and most importantly, some of the potential pitfalls you can have as a result of beginner problems, right? This podcast is definitely for you. Some of the key things you need to look at for if you want to treat it as an investment. Also, we'll talk a little bit about things like home ownership. What are the differences between that? So we even go into depth about things like residential versus commercial and everything. So enjoy the podcast and welcome to the podcast, Miss Amanda Chong.
Hi.
Thank you so much for spending time with us, Amanda.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah.
Why is everyone so formal? This one.
And yet we are friends for so long.
This is your. So one thing interesting, guys. So Amanda works for FAR Capital, and she is in the content creation space essentially, right? FAR Capital has to create a lot of very good quality content. But what surprised me was that this is actually your first time doing a podcast.
Yeah, because I'm normally behind the scene. My partner, Faisal Rizwan, is the face of the company, and he always jokingly say that he's the mascot lah.
Does he wear a clown costume most of the time as well?
There was a photo of him holding the 2 coconuts.
Oh yeah, I remember
the
that one.
one.
Oh yeah, that's the good old days, the pre-COVID days, right?
Yeah.
So I think for the benefit of all of us and the listeners, I just want to kind of chart out really how you came to be, right? So after graduating with an civil engineering degree, you started out as a structural engineer at Shell. Okay, so as you guys know, John was also from Shell. So before I move on, John, I'm pretty sure that's where you met Amanda.
Yeah. And
We did study in the same uni.
Yeah, we did study. But we were in different faculties and different timeline.
Yeah,
So we did
timeline.
different timelines.
Yeah.
Okay, so we didn't met there. But I think not so much about the past, but what she did for me in the past was that she was the first person that really, her and Albert, one of our friends as well, really kicked me into starting to invest in properties. Actually.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I have to ask this as a non-engineer. Which one is harder, civil or mechanical or electrical?
Oh, there's always different school of thoughts. So
Civil is the easiest.
Okay. All right. I think, John, you agree with that, right?
Yeah.
I always hear, the thing I always hear from engineers is civil engineering, you can see it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Electrical engineering, by the time you
Can't
see
see
it, it's gone.
Yeah.
You lose.
There's a joke about KLCC and civil and architects and electrical engineers. They say that, when you first look at KLCC, you say, oh, you admire the architect, it's fabulous, right? Glass design. Oh, you admire the civil and structural engineer that designed the strength and, it's not that tall, right? But when the lights go out, where the hell's the electrical engineer?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's quite sad lah.
And because I have close family members who are electrical engineers.
Yep.
And a lot of them like to, because if I'm not mistaken, right, electrical engineering is one of the hardest. So it's very abstract, right?
Yes.
So they like to pride themselves with that.
Yeah.
But my challenge to them is always, but can you change a light bulb?
Oh, can you repair a TV?
So it's
Or
like,
change the switch.
There's a switch, yes.
Yeah, so usually they cannot allow. Okay, so that's the Shell days, right? So you later on you joined Lumen Properties for about a year and a half, almost business development manager. Then you at the Makeover, right? Sdn Bhd South, managing director. So I noticed you were also the business development for Melting Pot.
Yeah, it's a service office, virtual office business.
I see. And also in the same time period, you have been the chief operating officer for FAR Capital. So what's interesting to me is that they're all on the same timeline. So you have 3 persons at once.
Actually, at the moment, I'm managing close to 10 companies.
Wow. Okay.
In our ecosystem.
So you're quite a good juggler, right? All the balls flying in the air. And then
Yeah, I think women tend to do that a little bit better than men.
I think a lot better.
Quite a lot.
Yeah.
Quite a lot.
We readily admit it, just white flag in that area. Yeah.
Yeah, I think my experience has always been that when it comes to guys discussing, right, there's a lot of opinions, a lot of suggestions, not a lot of doing.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
it's a bit frustrating, And because we are also strong investors and we look at annual reports and that, one trend that I personally notice is that some of the biggest companies in Malaysia and probably worldwide as well, actually there's no gender equality. And by that I mean there's actually more women than men. And these are successful companies, right? So
you mean at the management level or the working level?
The whole level. The management level, then that's where you can see there's more men take over, right? But by and large, right, the thing kind of holding it together, I noticed tend to have more women doing the nitty-gritty, the juggling and all that. So
Finance,
that's really good.
the operations. Yeah.
Although fun fact for you guys, I don't know if it's exactly still true today, but I do believe when it comes to investment banking, Malaysia is one of the highest percentage for female CEOs globally. So we can pat ourselves on the back for that.
Gender equality.
We probably have to credit to our, ex-Bank Negara.
Oh, yeah, Sri Zeti.
Zeti. Yeah. See, Bank Negara Zeti as well, right?
Yeah.
So, okay. So, before I begin, right, before we go into the juicy stuff, which is property investing, I want to get a sense from you, right, in terms of before you started working, your interactions with money, what were your first impressions of it? And of course, what was the moment where you realized, hey, money was important? Was this something that came naturally from the beginning, or were there some false beliefs maybe you had to change as a result of accommodating to, so to speak, the real world?
So I grew up in a middle-income family. My dad works for government. So income-wise has been stable. Truth to be told, we never need to worry about food on the table, right? And my parents managed to even, put us through piano lessons and all that, which is quite costly.
Yes.
Then my dad bought a house in PD, Port Dickson,
Oh, okay.
MBF.
MBF. Okay.
That time where they launched a lot of condominiums along the shoreline. And then 97, 98 hit,
I see.
right? So that was the time that I guess financially my parents suffered the most. I didn't really feel it at my level, but I can feel the tension. And of course, as we grow, then, my parents talk more and more about it. So actually, I never had to work for money when I was young,
Okay.
right? But property is something that our family is very afraid of.
So
It's something that, we got phobia of.
I see.
Yeah. I started working after SPM, and that's when I also learned a little bit. That's when I read Robert Kiyosaki's book. Okay. Then interestingly, so here's the thing, right? If you have kids who are at that age, the moment they are of legal age to go work, please kick them out of the house. Get them to go work. They can work at Starbucks or anywhere, right? But get them to work, because that's where they will learn real lessons about people and money. So I picked up a job at Patini.
Okay.
Good company.
Yeah.
Because when I was working there, that's when I realized there are these baskets of clothes
Okay.
that's being sold at 80% discount.
Okay.
Wow.
And the shocking fact is they are still not losing money.
So that intrigued you in a way.
Yeah, right. Then when you look at the margin that they actually have, so I decided to buy their shares.
I see.
Ooh.
So you in a way you started off investing in shares first rather than
At about 17.
Wow.
But my dad has been a share investor, so we grew up listening
I see.
to them talking about this thing, right?
I see.
But I started with Padini
Okay.
because that's where I work and I can see.
Wow.
Right? When you are there, you can see when the clothes are on new season full price sale. What would be the margin like? Then they will start putting it on 20%, then 50%. 1 year later, it would end up probably in the 70% off basket, and they are still not losing money.
Wow.
So it's a pretty good business.
Yeah.
Of course, they lost opportunity cost in a sense, right? But in terms of the material costs and the labor costs, they are able to still cover.
Correct.
So then I made some money from Padini shares,
Okay.
which I then invested into a cash flow board.
Into a cash flow board.
So I've been playing that board for a long time.
I see. I see.
And I think you all know Robert Kiyosaki.
The cash flow quadrant, the game lah.
Yeah, but he preaches about, first making your first pot from shares.
Okay.
You got to save.
Okay.
First save.
Yes.
Then put it into shares.
Okay.
That will help you to generate the first capital for properties.
Okay.
Then from properties lead you to owning businesses. So that is kind of the blueprint that I also went through.
I see.
Yeah.
Right. So, I have so many questions now. So, would you say that the biggest lesson is that the most important thing is to actually get the skills first?
For me, it's like, you first have to, cash flow was something very simple, right?
Yeah.
And then you get very basic concepts about recording. Expenses.
Okay. Budgeting. Okay.
Basic accounting.
Very basic self
bookkeeping lah in a way lah.
Personal bookkeeping, right?
Yeah.
Which I started doing.
Okay.
Right. Then you start noticing the income, expense, asset and liabilities and all that. It's actually very basic stuff, but how many people actually spend time to study?
Ironically, Malaysians, I would dare say less than 10%.
I think it's global.
Yeah.
I won't say it's just Malaysian.
I agree.
I agree.
Right.
Yeah.
So first thing is to get that, and which the book, and of course by playing the board game trains you very well.
Yep.
You get accustomed to doing it.
Yep.
Yeah. And then the board game kind of drills into you on different, the blueprint. You start learning how to spot opportunities. I mean, it's a very simple method, What better ways can you think of? How do you educate a secondary school leaver or students, right?
Yeah.
On financials other than
A game.
such a game.
Yeah.
So then to me, that's the most that's the starting point of all this.
Okay.
Because if not, growing up from a family that you never need to worry about money would,
There was no
complacency.
There's
There's no urgency or motivation
Smart.
to really go and make money.
understand.
If not because of these some of these external factors. Of course, I watched my parents, suffer through the 97, 98 period.
I see.
Yeah. So that is how lah.
Was it difficult in your peer group when you were doing all this, right? What was it?
Nobody.
Okay, so
to
it
talk
was
to.
it was pretty lonely, I guess, on your own to do this.
Yeah. So when I entered UTM the first year,
Uh-huh.
I got into student organizations. I started, advocating about this game, and we brought this board game and a whole bunch of professional trainers to run it in the camp.
Oh, I see.
And they've been running it until, if I'm not mistaken, until today.
Great.
Nice.
Yeah. So we run large-scale cash flow board game sessions in UTM.
Wow, that's cool. How come I didn't know about this? Man, different faculty lah.
Different timeline.
Different timeline. Yeah. Okay.
Ouch.
Dinosaur.
So one I have a couple of questions. Let me start with the first one, right?
Yeah.
So John kind of alluded to somewhat just now, but coming from a middle class background, you're saying that you potentially had complacency issues
Yes.
because your dad had a stable job from
Yeah.
civil service and all that. And I think so that's one level of challenge, and share with me how you got over that. And the second one is, one thing I realized that people who are in the middle class, right, is that they have certain perceptions about the wealthy that actually stops them from pursuing that. Like, for example, right, all rich people are mean,
Bad.
they're bad, and more money, more problems, right? So
They are, squeezing.
there's some greedy capitalists
Unscrupulous.
sitting on top of gold bars and things like that, right? So
Yeah.
what will your responses be to that?
So the first one was about to overcome the
The
complacency,
complacency,
right? Truth to be, I honestly don't know what happened, but I somehow just had the idea that if I want to do something, I want to maximize the result. I want
Okay.
to get the most out of it,
Okay.
right? I mean, plenty of people went to work at Padini after SPM.
Yep.
In fact, 10 of us, a bunch of friends, went to work in the same exact Padini, but I was the only one who bought the shares.
I see.
Wow.
Right.
You didn't tell your friends to buy some also?
I did.
Oh, okay.
But how many people at 17 or 18 years old would think that, okay, do I go for Starbucks or do I buy shares?
Yeah. That's a very interesting question, because I think when you're young, right, people are like, I think 100 ringgit or 200 ringgit.
What
Buy some
difference does it
Starbucks
make?
ah,
Yeah.
What difference does it make? Exactly.
what
Yeah, do I
difference
go
does it
for a
make?
date?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Or I buy shares,
That's right.
right? Even I was at Shell earning pretty decent salary.
Yep.
McDonald's was luxurious.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's the extent that I was at, right? So I probably had that in me,
Okay.
but because I grew up in an environment where money wasn't how to say scarce,
Yeah.
right? I didn't have to fight for it and all that. I have a very different view when it comes to spending money. It doesn't stop me from spending. So when I was in UTM, I literally spent my entire life saving.
Right.
Yeah, because I spend a lot of money on driving around, getting things done, student organizations, gathering experience. I spent a month in USA, backpacking, staying with my cousin, trying to see how people live in a different culture. When I came out from UTM, all the money that my parents helped me to save from
The ang pao
baby,
money and all that.
all the ang pao money and all that, all
Gone.
gone.
So
But I didn't feel insecure. So I think the upbringing of being in a, gave me the security. Even until today, there are times that business is bad.
yeah.
Okay. And I'm going to be honest, I invested in a lot of wrong properties.
Which
Okay.
we're gonna come to that
Correct.
soon.
I'm bleeding 5 digits a month. Right? There are times where when business is bad and you're bleeding this way, there are times that you're just going to, be at the brink of looking at an empty bank account. But I guess because of the very deep sense of security, right, I'm still able to sleep. And that becomes a very important characteristic or thing to have, especially as an entrepreneur, because it is not going to help when you panic.
Of course.
Becoming comfortable in uncomfortable situations.
Yeah. So I can't pinpoint a single event where
Right.
it led me to overcome the comfort. But I believe the long years of comfort gave me the sense of security to really
Right.
try things and get into uncomfortable situations and still being able to remain calm.
Understand?
Right.
Yeah.
So if someone who does not have that, in a way, benefit or background, right? Do you think it can be developed?
It can be developed. It is like everything else, it's a form of muscle,
Mm.
right? Even when you're trying to overcome or heal from adversities, these are all muscles that you can build. And I guess another switch here is that there are always ways to solve problem,
Mm.
right? The worst case of a financial problem is probably going into bankruptcy.
Mm.
But when you get into bankruptcy, you are also protected.
Protected.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Liquidators
That's what
can't
it
touch
is.
you.
Yeah. So it is, we get very sad when we hear people commit suicide
Mm.
because of financial problem, because there are actually many ways to carry on with your life.
Mm.
I'm not saying that you
Yeah.
should go and make reckless investment or business decisions,
Mm.
but if you do come to a day where you find yourself being in an impossible to get out kind of situation, know that there are a lot more people who have gotten out,
Yeah.
right? And it's not the end of the world,
Great advice.
Right.
right? So it will come through practice, exercise, It's just like you going to gym and build your muscle.
Great.
Okay.
Mm.
So what about now? Some of the misconceptions that people, especially in the middle class, might
About
have
the wealthy.
About the wealthy.
Yeah.
So they have that feeling because they believe that money is a finite resource,
Mm.
right? They think that in order for me to have more, I gotta take it from someone else.
The pie is of a
The
limited.
pie is
Yeah.
they believe that the pie is of a fixed size,
Yeah.
right? But truth is, it's not.
Yeah.
Okay, money is just a number, a tool,
A utility.
a utility. Our only finite resources are only time and attention.
Mm.
That's right.
Yeah. So when you understand that, then you get out from that position of thinking that money or wealth is finite. Then what is stopping more people from being wealthy together?
Yeah.
It's really about how we utilize our skills to turn it into some form of productivity that generates, the income.
Mm.
And everyone and anyone can do it.
Mm.
Right. Do you think that part of it as well is, so one thing I learned a little bit about sort of economic systems is that if you go, for example, to the US,
Yeah.
the poor in the US
Yeah.
would have a luxurious life in places like Africa, places in this part of the world.
Yes.
And what I what that taught me actually is that it's actually not about the absolute level.
It's
of wealth.
relative.
It's the relative. So it's like if I have a house and all that, but if I live besides Bill Gates, right, that makes me feel small, for example.
Relativity.
But
Yeah.
you have to realize that most people don't have houses to begin with a lot in the third world, for
Hong
example. Sorry, first world. Can you imagine?
First world.
First
Yeah.
world,
Kong.
right?
Yeah.
So my question is, okay, the absolute poverty comparison, I think it's a very logical one. It's like, be grateful and things like that. But I think a bigger struggle for a lot of people, especially in the middle class, is that relative valuation of themselves. So do you have any
stop
tips?
having that relative valuation?
Yeah.
First thing, get off Facebook.
Oh. Only
Great
Facebook.
advice. Only Facebook, man.
That's the worst, I guess. And Insta, right?
Insta,
Anything with a visual representation. Because not many people, I won't say nobody, not many people are going to share their struggles publicly.
Yeah.
People tend to share the good things.
Yeah.
So you are looking at a skewed perception, right? Or perspective of other people's life.
Yes.
And that leads to more people thinking that I'm not doing well, which is completely skewed
Yeah.
and inaccurate.
Yeah.
And that leads to all this so but unfortunately that's how the world, people are wired to perceive things that way, and capitalism would exploit that weakness lah.
Yeah. That loophole.
That weakness, because we've been hardwired for thousands or more than tens of thousands of years that way.
Yeah.
So it's going to take, I don't think we can ever get out of that.
Sure. So, but on the individual level, I totally agree. On a big society level, that's not going to happen. But on an individual level, so first tip is don't go on
Be
social
conscious
media.
about what you are seeing.
Yeah,
Okay.
because the sampling
Correct.
is you think that's it, whatever you see. But for those of you who have not watched The Social Dilemma,
Oh, yes.
oh please, guys,
Please watch Social Dilemma.
Just watch it. Yeah. Then you really understand how skewed
Correct.
your perception is
About the world.
yeah
About people around you.
yeah
About the world.
yeah
Because, you are seeing what you want to see.
yeah
And you're going to be fed more with what you want to see.
Correct.
It is
Right.
completely polarized.
Yeah.
So you're not seeing a real, when you reach out to your friend in real person,
yeah
they may tell you a complete different story of what you are seeing.
Yeah.
So that relativity is not even real.
Right.
Yeah. So there's really no need to get into that. Of course, as a business owner, we can't escape
Of course.
yes
from having to do some of those.
yeah
I don't want to drive the car that I'm driving today, but
yeah
it's a need.
yeah. She was complaining to me about her car features that she missed because she used to drive the same car that I'm driving right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she's like, they can't even get this right, and we're not going to even go there. What brand did she drive?
Continental.
yeah.
So for those, like you rightly mentioned, right, there are people who need to be on social media. Right?
Yes.
So
I mean, I'll be honest, I'm one
Right.
of them who exploit this weakness of humanity on
Yeah.
social media. That's
But you
how
do
a
it
company grows.
consciously with an ethical value, lah, in a way. You have to.
We have a choice, right?
Yes, you have
So
a choice.
I asked my team. We were debating about, to what extent do we go in terms of, okay, we all know this. A lot of companies, they attract new agents or all that by driving big cars and all
Yes,
that.
yes.
Okay. Now we have a choice. We can not join them,
Mhm.
but we know this is how people view
That's the perception.
perception of success and all that. And when we opt not to go in, does it stop others from doing it?
Nope.
No. Then we are at risk that those people who are supposed to come into our program and learn, the right way of doing investment safely would end up elsewhere. Because we are trying to be
Righteous or
right.
yeah.
correct. So when we had that debate, then I asked them, so now you have a choice. You want to let your prospect end up elsewhere at risk of making wrong decisions, or we do what we can to make sure they enter our house and we take good care of them. So when we had that debate, then everyone agreed that, we absolutely got to do what we can because we
Right.
know they will be protected in our home.
Great.
Right. So I'm gonna take one step further. Okay.
Yep.
So clearly you're on social media because it's specific to your business that it's a requirement, right? Now, I mean, in a way, it's like drinking, right? For a lot of entrepreneurs, right? They don't want it, but they kind of need it. Maybe in some cultures to build relationships and whatnot.
Especially in China, man.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
So that is specific to your example. But if let's say I'm an influencer, let's say, and I don't get money if I don't post. I
Yeah.
don't get money if I don't check out the newest trends.
Yeah.
I don't get money if I don't all of that, right?
Yeah.
Or just casual people, right, who find that who get gratification by posting and getting the likes and all that.
Yeah.
Is there any hope for them? I mean,
I think it's really the having the awareness and realization of what social media is actually doing for you, right? As long as you are aware then you can use it
Mm.
with
Alright.
care,
Mm.
right? But I think a lot of problem now is the bulk of the problem now is most people are not aware of why you are seeing certain things and how you are affected by it.
Right.
So that's the thing. That's the real danger. Using it's a tool, right? It's just like how we always talk about certain tools within our how we do investment. It's like a car. Just because we have a speed limit of 110 doesn't mean that you're going to tell Lamborghini you cannot make fast cars,
Of course.
Yeah.
right? But you as the driver decides whether you can drive safely or you want to risk your life and speed and all that. So it's the exact same thing.
It's a tool.
It's a tool.
Yes.
Really
How
right.
you use it,
Will you follow?
It's your own choice.
it's
an
your own
opinion.
choice.
A lot of people realize, no, the struggle is a lot of people don't realize that
Correct.
the choice is actually theirs.
Yes.
And because they have not taken a step back to reflect on that.
Yeah, I think that's the problem, right? We are overloaded with information that is and all these tools are trying to steal our time and attention to the point
Right.
that how many of us have the quiet time to reflect on anything at all?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So, but it is. I think a lot more people are starting to get more aware now.
Yeah.
Right.
We are onwards, I think, to a positive progress on that, lah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I know, like, even when Steve Jobs created the iPhone, I think he banned his children from
Having it.
having it.
Really?
Right?
That I didn't know.
Most of the tech giants, CEOs, COOs, they don't allow their kids to have device.
Oh, man.
I mean, yeah, because they know it.
Yeah.
It's like in Social Dilemma, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
they interviewed all the business leaders and all that. They
Yeah.
limit screen time for their kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can, even if you want to let them have screen time, it should be something that is dumb,
Yeah.
meaning it cannot give recommendation.
Ah.
Because recommendation is one of the most
The algos.
Dangerous.
The bots come in.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even like drug lords don't let their children take drugs. for example.
Even though it's the one that brings in the money, right?
But I do plan to get my kids, my son to invest in property. Yes.
Well, they can take Panadol. Panadol
Yeah,
is
Panadol
a
is fine.
form of drugs. Right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So I think before we go on into a very interesting question about you quitting your job, and you, as you mentioned, it was a good, well-paying job, right?
Yes.
I want to get your thoughts on this big discussion and debate in the personal finance community. Right?
Okay.
I think in October last year, there was a Malay lady for the Malay Mail.
Yeah, that
She
one.
came up saying that, financial literacy is useless because how can you save money when you're not making enough? She was basically making the claim that, Malaysian wages are not growing at all.
Okay.
So how much can you really save on a minimum wage or 2,000 ringgit salary, for example, which is considered low for many people, right? Especially if you're in the Klang Valley region or any densely populated city in Malaysia.
Yep.
And so then there was this backlash onto from the financial literacy, personal finance community that, budgeting, discipline, having a good savings rate and all that. So there's this tension about making money and saving money in order to generate the excess capital for eventually buying the padini or buying then your first property, right?
Yeah.
So, we tend to, especially those of us in the investment industry or in the investing content space, we talk about investments all the time, but we don't realize that underneath it is this important need first to build the skills, get the income, and then save money. But I guess the question for me is, where do you sit in this? Are you on the financial literacy side, or are you in this a Malay male lady side where, no, the income is the most important, generating that big income?
We have been providing free financial education since MCO started last year.
Right.
Right. We talk about all this thing, increasing income, savings, budgeting, control on expenses, right? And also cutting down monthly commitments. We even we provide debt consolidation services to our clients.
Nice.
So for us, it's not one
Or
factor
another.
thing.
Of course.
Right. This equation covers several things. So if you play cash flow, it would teach you to do both things. You first got to at the same time you got to increase your income and reduce your expenses and commitment. So financial literacy, I think many people have been talking about it. Is that one biggest missing? I think people are talking about two large chunk that is missing from education system right now. One is financial literacy. The other one is emotional quotient
EQ.
or emotional intelligence.
Right.
Right. So these two are technically actually the main surviving skills.
So financial literacy, it's very clear to me why you need, right? You need know budget. You need to have this idea like stop using 70-80% of your salary for a house or something like that.
No, worse, car.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's what people do.
Tell us
70 to
about it,
80% of their income for cars, or like
At
a
least
big
half.
chunk lah.
A big chunk.
That's crazy.
A big chunk.
man.
Yeah. So
Right.
like financial literacy, I get it because it's a rational thing and it's very mathematical. Usually, they always talk about numbers and all that. But why emotional quotient or emotional intelligence? Why is that important?
Skills, right? Technical skill to do anything. Most people will be able to pick up or be trained. Right. So in our company, we pretty much don't look at qualification. I think the only department that we look at qualification when we hire is the finance team.
Oh yeah, because it's a technical field.
Make sure they know how to, what's debit and credit. Right?
The only three functions in our company that we look at qualification is finance, HR, and legal.
Okay.
No choice.
Yeah.
Okay. Everything else, we are very open
Yeah.
because we realize that people are actually quite agile. When they come in, the key thing is the ability to learn, not so much of what you have learned in the past, right? So, but emotional quotient or intelligence is something that has to actually be built over a long term, right? Your grit, your ability to handle adversity, handle rejection, because with that takes away a whole chunk of your time and attention again if you are unable to manage it well. So it takes away your focus from being productive and in that growing mode, and you spend time in that processing of negativity.
All right.
Yeah. So of course now we live in an age of over information.
Oh yeah, tell me about
Right.
100%.
Many young parents are constantly distracted as well.
Social media.
Social media or texting, trying to stay connected, but really are we connected? Right? And what happens to the child that's sitting next to us?
Oh man, yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be more and more apparent.
Yeah.
Yeah, the impact of all this, especially with the past 1 year of lockdown.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So I think that's why a lot of these are missing. People are not taught how to communicate intelligently, right? How to handle their emotions intelligently. When you get that kind of sorted out, right, I think anyone can learn how to, do things.
Yeah. And I mean, looking at your story as well, when you mentioned about how the losing money doesn't cost you hours of sleep, right? For
It
example.
doesn't.
Yeah. So I think you say that is a way of how good EQ translates into better financial decisions.
It allows you to not react to short-term,
fluctuations or cycles. Yeah.
because you would be able to calm down, take a step back and think actually how things are going to pan out in the next 3, 5, 10 years, right? And you will realize that it is all a cycle. I'm not the only one going through the difficulty.
Yeah.
There are ways to overcome. Difficult,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's going to be uncomfortable, right? But eventually it will get better.
Right.
So with that thought, then you tend to not,
Sorry to interrupt this podcast. I know it's a little bit annoying, but I want to tell you something that I think can be really helpful to you. I can tell you're really interested in the stock market and want to learn more about it so that you actually know what you're doing, especially when today things are getting more complex and complicated. That's why we came up with the Stock Investing Blueprint, or SIB. It's our signature e-learning program that teaches you how to pick the right stocks most of the time, buy and sell it at the best possible time, and manage your stock portfolio systematically. It currently has more than 10 hours of content and it's growing. You'll also be part of a group of like-minded investors that can help speed up your learning process. To hop on the program, click on the link in the description or go to learn.firl.co/courses/SIB. So you're running this free financial education for FAR Capital for quite a while now, probably more than a year right now,
Yes.
already, right? And what are some of the common mistakes, false beliefs, myths that is very present in the group of people that you educate?
Yeah.
I assume most of them are Malaysian, probably all of them. What unique to Malaysians? What do you see that you think they need to commonality they need to fix
or they need to address?
Yeah.
I think we're seeing it's alarming the number of people that we come across that are now carrying things like personal loan and credit card loans.
Oh man.
And what's the youngest that you've seen? Is it getting younger and younger? Because I know you guys do debt consolidation, right? So,
somehow it's spread.
So it's not skewed to one.
It's not skewed to one particular age group. We see it kind of across the board
Okay.
and across all races.
Look at that. Wow.
Now we had the misconception
That Chinese would be better in marketing.
No.
Okay. Good.
No, in fact, they are almost
Equal?
the same,
Mhm.
equal,
Relative to the population.
relative to the population. Meaning in terms of proportion, relative.
About
yes.
that lah.
I was also very pleasant to find a lot of my Malay clients are very good at managing their money.
Great.
Wow.
6-digit savings, all that. And so it's not, I think across over the years, right, somehow the cultural history that we carry has been overridden by the general education
Great.
or the trend or the financial products that we're offering to our people. So we're now seeing that across the board in terms of personal loan, credit card, high balances and all that. Yeah. So that is alarming.
Why is it growing so quickly?
Now you can see anyone on the street 20 plus years old carrying an iPhone 12 that I don't feel that I can afford. Right? It is but it has become the definition of necessity has changed.
Yeah. From wants to needs is blurred already.
Now it's becoming blurred or in fact swap places, right?
Wow.
In the past we believe that, if you want to start a family, you must buy a house.
Yeah.
Right? You must save money, you
Yeah.
must do something, right?
Yeah.
But now the lines have blurred. Some of the items even swap places.
So you gotta let us know, man. What are those items? In your sample size, right? What are some of the upside down priorities that you see in some of your clients?
Phone over baby stroller. No, I'm just kidding. Just pulling out something on my head.
No, it's like, getting into a debt for having a wedding. This is very common nowadays. Getting ahead of themselves are like,
Right.
people who are earning probably half of my income or 1/3 of my income are driving same car, if not bigger car.
Wow.
And I was very shocked when I see this kind of thing, right? I mean, I understand you want to be in YOLO,
Yeah, lah. YOLO and you want a
be
symbol
good
status.
to yourself and all this thing, but it's not wrong as long as it's manageable. But I think what people are missing is the opportunity cost that comes with it.
Right.
Right? Yes, you are okay. You are able to pay all this every month, but that car is not gonna grow in value. If anything, it's gonna depreciate.
Yeah.
Everything that you buy, apart from stocks and all that, investments or properties, they're gonna depreciate in value. The moment you touch them and bring them home, they already drop.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, but people are spending primarily on those things that drops in value rather than grow in value.
Is it because of the temptation of great marketing strategies of all
Of
these?
course.
Yeah.
And lower barrier to entry
I think that's a very important
to
point.
buy,
Yeah.
right? Now, You can buy anything and put it on an installment plan, easy payment scheme. So, yeah.
Okay.
So, you talk about debt, using debt to buy some of these things. But man, you also use that to buy property, what?
Now,
Right? So what's the difference?
So when I buy the wrong properties, it's bad,
Okay.
right? It's worse than buying an iPhone 12 lor.
Uh-huh.
But when I buy the right ones, they help me generate monthly income, and they also help me generate wealth over the long term.
Right.
Yeah. So it doesn't drop in value. It probably drops today because of COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's in a way temporary.
But
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a temporary thing. It's a cycle.
Yeah.
And we just, because we go in with a long term horizon, right? Just like you guys, you don't buy something to sell tomorrow.
yeah.
So eventually it will be okay.
But see, property gives you value. But if I want to buy an iPhone or if I want to buy a new car, right? If it makes me happy, why not?
Gives you bragging rights though.
Right? Why not?
Yeah. Then the real question is the opportunity cost. What are you missing out?
Yeah.
What are you actually not making
Right.
by spending on that?
Right.
So we once compared a car, I think it was a Honda Civic, against owning a property.
Okay.
Oh.
And you did the numbers and crunch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the monthly installment was about the same.
Okay.
Right.
So what are you, I think our conclusion was you're going to lose $500,000 over the next 20 to 25 years by buying a Honda Civic. And that's the opportunity cost. You don't see it.
Yeah.
You can try to sweep it under the carpet,
Yeah.
but it is there.
Yeah.
So you bring up a very good point in that illustration, because hidden in that example is delayed gratification.
Correct.
Because the keyword of what you said there was 20 to 25 years.
Yeah.
And so I think the challenge for a lot of people is, okay lah, but 500K in 25 years, a lot, man.
Versus not having it at all, I think that's a lot.
Yeah.
And that's just one.
Yeah. Just curious, in this free education you guys are doing, right? How do you get people to delay gratification? How do you get them to say, yeah, I'm not going to, there's a famous marshmallow test, right? I'm not going to eat the marshmallow today, so I can get 3 marshmallows.
I'll try on my son, huh?
Yeah. I haven't tried on mine yet.
Then take the risk of trying and be a bit potentially disappointed.
Yeah.
But
I
no,
try
anyway,
to build habit.
Yeah.
Right.
Rather than running a test, right?
Yeah.
I try to build habit
Right.
for him to understand that you got to do something right along the whole day, then you will get something at night.
Yeah.
So I try to drill it in. And I would buy things, show him, and tell him you're not going to get it until you
Finish this task.
finish this task or finish this 2 weeks habit building kind of thing.
Right.
So don't set them up for a test for failure.
Very good point.
Right, that's really because we're not psychologists, man. We're trying to develop habits,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
So don't set them up for failure and get yourself disappointed and
And
having.
it's not very healthy also.
Yeah.
Marshmallows not the healthiest things.
No. What if
Yeah.
mom and dad, I hate marshmallows. That's so strange.
Then Indomie
Your
lor,
test
I don't know.
invalid.
So so I mean
delayed
back
gratification.
back to my question about because I think delayed gratification also ties into some form of EQ, right? And if like people, when they talk about what I hear is they always provide solutions to how you can solve your financial problems, but actually that one thing alone, delayed
It's
gratification will
just
solve so many things.
surface, right?
Yeah.
Whatever that we're what you just said is I'm just trying to fix the
Right.
problem on the surface,
Yeah.
not
It's
at
a
the
it's a
roots.
duct
Yeah.
tape kind of solution.
yeah.
So what is FAR Capital's solution for the delayed gratification problem? And I know this is a super difficult problem to solve,
Yes.
right, for so many people. So what is the FAR Capital solution?
So we have Faisal and I attend a lot of courses, right? So one of the very important concept that we pick up when it comes to negotiation or trying to get things across is there are 3 key elements if you want to get something across. First is what we call a brightness of future. Okay.
Selling the benefits in the future. Okay.
Right? You talk about things like retirement, children's education, and all that, right? These are the things that you guide them into having those mental pictures.
Okay.
Second thing is called darkness of the future.
Mm.
What happens when things go wrong?
Mm.
or a lot of them are already in that darkness right now, trying to get out. So when you apply both, right? Plus the third element is what we call the frequency of interaction.
Frequency, okay.
So you got to keep.
So it's not just
It's not a
once-off.
one-off thing. It cannot be a one-off thing. So if you look at the way that we are running our free education, our classes, our webinars and all that, and things that we write publicly, it's always surrounding all this, you know. We talk about brightness, we talk about darkness, and just keeps going.
I see.
So it will take years to drill things down. That's why we maintain, you know, we run 14 sessions a week with our clients just to engage them frequently whenever they need reminder. Right. So it has to be done over a very, very long time.
It's a long game.
Does this create a form of dependency actually? Because no FAR capital, then
don't know what, not directionless.
Of course, as a business,
dependency is good for us, right?
Yeah, exactly, right. But maybe on a personal level, what can people do that to your third point about frequency? What can people do daily apart from reading posts by yourself?
I mean, there are plenty of people
resources
talking about all these things, right? As long as you have the awareness that you need help or you need inspiration to keep yourself on track, then I'm sure you are able to find a lot of good contents or people to follow, influencers to follow in this.
I guess that's where you can turn social media into something
useful.
Something useful,
meaningful. Yeah.
We've diverged from a question of why she can create a group.
No, we did not. No, we don't.
It's just a very long
way to come through that.
So now, guys, we only had about 1/3 of the questions. So,
man.
Now, one very interesting aspect, and I think John has can relate to a lot of this as well, is the fact that you 2/3 of people on this table quit Shell.
Yeah.
Right? And a very well-paying job. And you're one of them. And my big question is, why did you do it? And how do you manage the uncertainty? How do you respond to people around you, presumably, that says, you're nuts, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, including my parents.
Okay. Do they still think you're nuts? Not so much.
I think today not so much, but not completely off yet.
Yeah.
So
probably by the time we get public listed,
then
they will accept
perception
it.
will change.
Yeah, that's just how people, you know.
Yeah.
So, why did I quit? This is the answer that I typically give to people. I don't think I'm a very good employee.
Okay.
I am a bit too energetic to be an employee.
All right.
I want to improvise things whenever I see things, not in its optimum way of being done. And it's very difficult when you're in a huge corporation. Yeah. Because there are just a lot of, considerations, right? A lot more parties involved and all that.
Right.
Versus when you are a founder of a startup. Yeah, we change things on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Right? Whenever we see something wrong, we react immediately. And that's the environment that I believe I do better in.
Yeah.
I can bring more value.
And in business, it's the decisions you make have almost an immediate impact compared to a large organization where, if you do implement something, the levels of bureaucracy already wears you down. And then at the end of the day, you don't even see that impact to you. But in business, it's like if you make a wrong decision or you make a right one, it's almost, it can be almost immediate.
Yeah. And so I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
And I tell my bosses very honestly, right? I don't think I'm your best employee. I give you a problem.
Yeah.
Right. So and when people ask me, I just give them this very honest assessment about myself.
Right.
Yeah. So it's not so much about, shiny object or whatever. I'm just not suited that well. I'm not wired that way to be compliant. Yeah. So I perform better with this kind of environment in business.
What was the was there an exact point when you decided, okay, this is enough, or was it a combination of a few things before you
I think
decided?
it's over the years of observing, because
see.
when I was in UTM, I already decided if I want to be an engineer, I want to be a highest paid engineer. I mean, if I were to do the same job, right?
Yeah.
Why settle for a normal salary? So my direction was very clear. It's either Shell or a field services company like Schlumberger.
Yeah.
Right? These are the top paying engineering jobs at that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I built my way, and then, Shell was the only, these two were the only companies that I applied for. Schlumberger rejected me because they found out that I already have an offer with Shell.
Oh, but you didn't use that to say, hey, if I'm just give
No,
me something higher? No.
I didn't. We just had a very honest conversation during the interview lah, and they were trying to assess, whether I would enjoy working for them or more with Shell. And I think during that conversation, we all agreed that I'm gonna be happier there, and it was a good chat lah.
Right.
Yeah. So, but when I was in the company, then I realized, right, if I'm already in the top paying, or if not one of the best paying engineering job in one of the best employer, best company to work for, and I still can't get that fulfillment, right? Then I guess employment is really not for me.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
It's an interesting way to look at it. So then how about when you step out, right? Because challenge one is to realize and step out. Challenge two is the people around you and the skepticism.
Yeah. How do you deal with that?
The good thing at that time was, I didn't have much commitment, in the sense that I don't have kids and all that, right? So the stress level was relatively lower. I did have some good savings, and I already bought quite a number of properties by then, which were all making money.
Yeah.
So in terms of financial, it was okay. A lot of people thought that I was nuts. I think that's normal, right?
Very normal.
Resigning from a 5-digit pay
Yep.
at 27 years old with a company that gives you unlimited medical benefit.
Yep.
It's nuts. I don't engage. I don't argue, right? I mean,
No point being defensive, right, at that point.
what's there to defend?
Yeah, or justify your action. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, up until today, I believe I still have friends or family members who are wondering one day if I would fail.
Wow.
I mean, they're just watching lah.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
it's interesting because I read somewhere that actually, strangers can sometimes give the best advice, and it's those that's close to you that is the biggest roadblock and
Spot
pothole
on.
in
They
your
are
journey.
They are your yes, they are the biggest. They some of them may become your biggest skepticals. Who
Yeah.
Yeah.
when you're trying to sell a product, who would buy first?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, usually I don't go to family lah.
Yeah,
Me
same.
neither. lah.
Same.
Yeah.
I
They
mean,
ask, they ask, then I will respond lah. But if not,
I would tell them that it's not worth risking our relationship
yeah,
over this, right? So I would rather do it with-
stranger.
yeah.
That's true. That's so true.
So I
Right.
don't engage, and there's really no need to. First of all, at that moment, I got nothing to defend anyway.
Yeah.
We're just starting out.
Yeah.
Even up until today, I just keep quiet. Most of them don't really know what I do.
Really, yeah. Is it because they don't ask, or you just
We
give the? Just,
I avoid talking about it. I don't
Right.
want to be seen as trying to solicit business
Mm.
or, and truth to be told, I did make some property investment with my family.
yeah,
That one turned out quite okay.
Mm.
But also, I also realized that it's not worth the tension or risking the relationship just to do that with them. I mean, now I just let them be lah.
Yeah.
I used to be very enthusiastic. I want to help my family buy houses and all that, only to realize that sometimes what you think you are
yeah.
helping,
Benefiting them, yeah.
it does not necessarily mean that it's something that they want.
Yeah.
So I just,
So now is a good time to start talking about properties. Finally,
yeah.
How many minutes are in the podcast? So about an hour in the podcast. Then we talk about properties, guys. This is a trick to get you to watch all the way for the podcast, right? Yeah. So, well, how do you get into properties, right? So you mentioned by age 27, you already had Shell, and you already had a few properties, right?
I think
So
at
what
that time I
prompted
had
you to get
about
into properties?
7 to 8.
Right.
Mm.
So this was before FAR, right? You were already into properties.
I don't
Before
think
FAR.
I don't think FAR was, when did FAR started? 2000.
2014.
Yeah, I remember it was definitely
2014.
before FAR.
But were you, because I know Faisal wrote a book before I started
Yes,
FAR,
yes,
right?
Yes.
So, were you following him back then already, or you were just using what you learned from Robert Kiyosaki and applying it?
We met from an online forum. Back then, there were several prominent real estate forums that, there's a bunch of us inside, about 10 to 20 people of us who are regularly discussing things and giving input and sharing information. So that's where I met Faisal. Yeah. So I bought my first property 1 year after graduation. So it was an auction property. My cousin found the unit,
Okay.
pulled me to that unit.
Okay.
Family can be useful sometimes.
Yeah, I'm grateful. And she has been some form of a role model to me.
She's a Ren, is it? She's
She's a business owner. She
I see.
runs businesses.
Nice.
Yeah, so I learned a lot from her. In fact, my first experience of doing retail sales was with her.
Martini, is it?
No, in
even
her.
Before that.
I mean, Padini, you're just an employee,
Right,
right?
right,
So
right,
you
right.
just kind of stand there and you do what you were told to do lah. But when so she runs a Causeway business, right? And I would spend weekends working for her for free
Okay.
at her Causeway shop,
Right.
just to observe how
She runs the business.
they sell things.
Mm.
Yeah. So she brought me to that property, and somehow magically the door is unlocked. Because for auction property, you buy as is,
Yeah.
right? So the highest risk of buying auction is, you don't know how it looks like inside. But fortunately for me, for that particular property, we were able to enter. She already owns multiple property in that building.
I see.
Wow.
So when she stumbled upon this opportunity, and at that moment she couldn't buy anymore,
Yeah.
she passed it on to me, and we bought it lah.
Right.
So after that, I started buying more and more. Yeah, but at that time it was difficult because every property requires 10% down payment. This is why I said McDonald's is luxury food.
I see.
But of course, it was tight, not because you were buying the next iPhone, but you were buying a property or properties.
Properties.
Right.
Yeah. So one after another, we have to save up for the down payment.
Right.
Yeah.
So in a way, when you met Faisal to begin FAR Capital, you already had huge bunch of experiences with it, and then it was just kind of natural that it was a meeting of kindred spirits, right?
So we enjoy shopping, right?
Right.
For properties. But you would come to a point that you can't buy anymore. So that's when we had the idea of having FAR Capital. So we couldn't buy anymore, but we enjoy doing it, right? So might as well do for our clients.
So sorry, because I've never bought a property in my life before. So what do you mean when you say you cannot buy anymore? Is it because of that 3 property down payment where you need to put in 30% or 70%?
That
loans?
wasn't there
different.
10 years ago.
So what do you mean by you couldn't buy more properties?
Back then it would require a lot of capital to buy. First thing, right? And secondly, also you may hit into maximize your loan eligibility, unable to get more loans
because
for a
of
while.
your income capacity and and how much you could leverage.
It's always you push your income higher, then you can get more loan. You push it higher, you can get more loan. So you will have a time where it's very close, right? And then you are probably waiting for your next rental income to kick in, or your next salary increment to kick in, and all that. So we can't be buying all the time. Yeah, but we want to keep shopping.
So instead of buying Padini shoes or Vinci shoes, then it's assets.
Yeah.
Property.
To be fair, Padini is quite affordable.
Yeah,
think you
true,
need to
true,
use.
true, true.
Yeah. You need a more
iPhones, atas.
And then you need the Prada.
LV.
Yeah. So okay, so now let's reverse back, right? If you could go back today and start out as a fresh grad, what are the important things you will need to do? And you probably did it when you started off, but were there things that you would have done better?
Yeah.
And what advice will you give to people who are fresh grads today? And let's just give a bit more specific for you, right? So fresh grad salary, let's call it 3,000 ringgit. Want to get into properties. Step one.
Control expenses. That is for sure. Right. So that's the first basic thing. Second thing is really look at upskilling yourself to enable higher income. Okay. There is no rule saying that as a fresh grad you can only earn 3,000.
Of course.
Learn a
Right.
side hustle or something.
Hustle, side hustle income, even just progressing within your career, right?
Right.
Finding higher paying jobs. Yeah. So that's the second thing. Third thing is really who do you hang out with?
Very good.
So if you ask me, the one thing that I think I didn't do good enough is the people that I hang out with.
So how did that affect you presumably negatively?
I won't say it's negatively. It's
Right.
just the opportunity cost of what could have been better.
Yeah.
I.e. meet people like Faizul a lot earlier lah, and hang out with.
Not just, we already have that.
Okay.
I was already one of the youngest person within that group. Faizul probably was the second youngest,
Yeah.
and he was the only Malay.
Ah.
Yes.
Everyone else were like
Was Chinese.
Chinese auntie uncles.
Yeah.
And every time we hang out with him, we would go somewhere. I still remember one of our gathering, we went to a vegetarian restaurant just so that he can eat together with us.
Great.
Yeah.
Albert was also. I mean, Albert is a common friend between Amanda and I. And was he in that?
No.
group? He wasn't, right?
Because he was investing primarily in
Oh,
Australia.
correct. Yes.
Correct.
This
Correct.
group of us, we invest in KL.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I think if you talk about fresh grad, I would say pull it back even earlier. One thing I regret not doing enough is I should have spent more time working when I was in university.
So that you can save up more and have more capital to start with, or
Not for the money,
for the skills?
for the skills, for the
Right.
experience, for the network.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I really regret.
Okay.
So if you're a fresh grad, really controlling expenses, upskilling to increase your income, and be very mindful of who you spend your time with.
Okay. So let's say if you're someone who is like you, right? Upskilling super important. You get the basics of budgeting. You've got your discipline, and you now got a either okay group of friends or pretty good surroundings for you. Now share with me about the technical aspects right now of actually getting that first, either hopefully it's an investment or even maybe getting a house to stay in, right? What is those first steps now?
We now advocate that you shouldn't buy your own stay property before you're 40.
Wow.
40. Wow.
We said 30. You guys said 40. Okay.
Okay.
This is coming from
Okay,
a
we are changing it to
property
40.
guru. We're changing it to 40 now for FIRL.
Yes.
I mean, up until today, I'm still renting. I've been renting for the past 10 years.
Yeah.
And I've been shifting house, for various reasons, right? You change of job and childcare.
And it gives you options, right? Rather
Correct.
than being tied down, right?
Flexibility.
Yeah.
Gives you the flexibility to move. So that's why we now push it to 40, because I think we kind of observe a lot of our clients got into trouble because they bought a house thinking to stay. The moment
dream
you
house,
make
right?
you make emotional purchases, and then because of a change of job, that house is no longer convenient.
Yeah.
Then you're stuck with a property that gives you negative cash flow, and you bought because of emotional reasons, means most likely it's also overpriced.
Oh, hear that, everyone? If you love the house, it's a bad investment.
Put it this way, if you love the house, you will most likely be able to rent it cheap.
Yeah. And then that really makes sense, is because I was, we're not property guys, but I was speaking to a few friends on it. They say that residential houses in good areas, most of the time are the
Cheaper
installment.
to rent than to buy.
Actually,
Yes.
a good example is Desa Park City.
Ah.
Because Desa Park City, if you had bought, I mean, Amanda would know these numbers better. probably 500,000 at that point when it started.
Oh, now millions.
Now I know now it's millions, but if you were to buy it in millions,
Right.
your installment would probably be what, between 6 to 7,000.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you were to rent a place there, it's about 2 to 3K.
Right. So before I know this conversation is going to investment strategy.
Yeah.
So but that is when that's higher tier talk right now. But before that, right?
To buy the first house.
For investment. So now we know if you buy before 40,
Don't
what
buy
are you
for
doing with
stay.
your life,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
What are you doing with your life? So and this is straight from property experts, right? So now own stay aside. Now first investment step.
Yeah.
What is step one? Of course, step one for buying the house, not step one in terms of getting your finances in order. That's done already.
Learn. Really learn.
Mm-hmm.
So we now even have students joining as a FAR Capital client.
Like uni students or
Uni students.
Wow.
Just to learn. Because they want to be completely ready. Right? They want to know exactly what to do.
But can you really be completely ready before you buy? Or should you
you can be better ready.
I
Yeah.
see.
So what is better already? What is the point where it says, okay, now I'm better already?
Number one, understanding your personal finances.
Right.
Yeah.
So the first step, for our clients when they come in,
Right.
we really put them on an X-ray.
Okay.
Oh.
They go naked financially in front of us. Yeah. So, but doing it for them is one thing, right? We actually teach all our clients how to do it themselves. So that understanding where you're at is very important because that gives you a sense of, okay, these are the areas that I need to improve, which
Alright.
can take 6 to 12 months. That's where the debt consolidation, income improvement and all that comes in.
All right.
Yeah, because any form of side income requires at least 6 months track record for the banks to recognize.
Yep.
Ideally with tax filing.
Right.
Right. So that takes time.
Okay, so now you mentioned the bank. That's an important component when it comes to buying your first house, right?
Yep.
So you mentioned one criteria, which is you need a 6 months track record of your bank statements.
Yes.
So what are the things that people need to look at?
If you're an employee for banks, if you're a fresh grad, you need minimum 6 months track record.
Okay.
Okay. Your payslip, make sure you work for a company that actually pays for your EPF and everything.
Right.
That's very important. Second thing is make sure you're no longer what we call a CCRIS virgin.
Okay.
Maybe for the context of those who don't know what is CCRIS, maybe Amanda, you want to, give
okay.
Yeah.
CCRIS is a credit report maintained by the central bank, Bank Negara, of every citizen in Malaysia. Right. So all your credit cards, personal loan, housing loan, car loan, repayment history, loan balance, loan amount, it's all stated in that particular report. You can buy it, the report. You can get it for free from Bank Negara, e-CCRIS website. You can also buy it from companies like CTOS.
Okay.
It's 25 ringgit per report.
Okay.
Yeah, then you get to look at what kind of financial sins you have committed.
I see. Financial sins. Who do you confess your sins to later?
Okay.
Yeah.
So how to not remain as a virgin? Very simple. Once you have worked for about 3 to 4 months, get a credit card, but don't use it. I mean, you can use it. Make sure you pay off every month, right? Then you would let the bank assess your repayment behavior as a customer. So that's very important because if your CCRIS remains empty, it's very hard for a bank to give you a 6-digit housing loan.
Yeah.
Because they cannot assess whether you're a good paymaster or not.
I see.
Right.
It's the behavior that they want to assess.
Yes, they're looking at your repayment behavior.
So if I have no record in terms of the credit rating, right? What steps do I need to do and how long do I need in order to make the banks comfortable? Now, obviously each bank will have their own preferences, I will assume. But like, for example, 6 months of bank statements, that's something that makes them comfortable. So what is that comfort level for CCRIS reports?
I think you just need to get that card into the system and then 2 to 3 months, they are okay.
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh.
I think we have clients who have managed to done it.
2
in
to 3 months.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's not difficult.
Because anyway, when you apply for a credit, I don't know whether it's changed from my time. You only need 3 months of
Yes,
payslip.
correct.
And even better if you have EPF.
Yes,
EPF
with
statement.
EPF statement.
Yes.
Right.
Because what they do is the reason why they want it is, one is your behavior. The second thing is that if you have outstanding amounts in your credit card, they can go after your EPF money to repay. Yes. That's why sometimes when, especially freelancers,
Right.
when you go to a credit, you know, those guys peddling credit cards at the shopping mall, right?
Right.
They rather have your EPF statement.
Wow.
Yeah.
They actually have that machine right there.
Yeah.
They have the machine right there for you to generate your EPF statement.
Yeah.
Wow.
I forgot to tell, because
He has so they have the right to use your EPF as collateral, essentially, right?
in a way,
Not direct.
Yeah, not direct. Yeah.
But they want to assess whether you have that
Right.
or not.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's good information for me because I'm one of those.
Yeah, I know, because he kind of, okay, should I say this here?
Sorry. I'm a because I never bought a property before.
Yeah, so he's kind of like
I use credit cards,
Yeah.
but it's actually a supplementary card for when I was
So you've not built
young.
your own score, actually.
Exactly, right.
Yeah.
So okay, so that's great. So now Sikri's bank statement. So on the banking side, anything important that one would need to take off as someone just starting out?
I think that's basically it. Yeah.
Okay, so that's the banking aspect. We've
Yeah.
talked about the personal finance aspect. Then we've talked about the education aspect. Are all these the sufficient ingredients to begin?
And you would need some minimum amount of savings.
Okay, that's very good, right? So again, painting the picture of a fresh grad who, maybe let's say he's pretty good, he can increase his income maybe 20% a year, right?
Wow.
It's pretty good. Yeah. 10 to 20, let's put it there, right? So I do know, like talking to some of my friends who are in corporate, 10 to 15% increment means it's a very good year.
Yeah.
On average, it's 5 to 7, something like that.
Correct.
So let's say he's that, right? So he learns, he's very progressive in his self-development and all that. What property value should he start with in terms of, because that eventually ties into the amount of loan plus the upfront capital that needs to put up, plus all the other fees associated with it.
Yeah.
What is the right amount of savings?
And you can give us a band, if
Yeah,
it earns this much, how much? Yeah.
Okay, if you are earning approximately 3,000 ish, you should comfortably be able to get a loan between 300 ish thousand.
Okay.
So that would be the ticket size that we look at.
So about 10 times your monthly.
100.
100 times, sorry.
100 times monthly. Yeah. So, and that's how to say, also a mass market kind of property price point.
Right.
If you're looking at 2 to 3 bedroom today in Klang Valley.
Okay.
Yeah. So capital wise, most of the properties right now, if you're buying from developer, requires zero down. Yeah. Legal fees and all that, most of it covered. Yeah. So it does you just need to have some spare cash lah. I would say probably between 10 to 15,000.
Okay.
I see.
To make you feel safe.
Right.
Yeah. And you will need to support the construction interest if it is under construction.
Right.
Yeah.
Is it a good idea to go for that sort of properties starting out?
Starting out, first property, ideally, buy something that's completed. Or completing soon.
Not under I mean, if it's under construction, it's close to completion.
Close to completion. Because if you buy something that completes 4 years later, you need to wait for 4 years and you won't be able to do anything.
And do you still need to pay the interest while you wait?
You will need to pay the interest as the loan gets drawn down.
Right.
Right. But the key thing is you cannot generate rental income.
Yeah.
To, increase back your loan eligibility. So for first property, we always advocate our clients to buy something that's completed or completing soon. Because when the rental income kicks in, you can buy again. So the waiting period is shorter.
Right. So once you can rent out, that all this ties into improving your standing,
your income
with the bank, right?
Correct. It will increase your income.
Right.
Therefore, you can get more loan.
Right. But then would the bank take into consideration the loan the earlier loan as well?
Yes,
they
of
would,
course.
right? Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So in terms of at that amount, right, at 3K a month, which is not a lot, sounds like you can really only buy one.
Yes.
Right? Because At 3K, and you're saying, let's say you need 15K for a down payment, so that's what?
It's not for down payment. It's just
because down payment normally for undercon.
Oh, it's
if you're buying direct from
right.
developer.
Yeah.
Right.
Unless it's a sub-sale lah.
Sub-sale also now there are rooms to, negotiate in terms of down payment. So it's not really for down payment. It's just as reserve.
Okay.
Right.
Just in case.
Just in case you need something.
So you mentioned words like sub-sale, right? One thing I've always wanted to know as a complete newbie is what are the stages to call the term? So like, for example, I know things like, I've heard words like subcon, sub-sale, then words like auction. So I know these are terms that people use for the property in different life cycles of the property, like from the time the first brick is laid to the time it's demolished. So what are the step-by-step
milestones, I think?
Yeah.
So I guess there are three main categories,
Okay.
right? There is a primary, secondary market, secondary market, and auction.
Okay.
Okay, primary market refers to properties that you buy direct from developer. Okay, it could be under construction,
Okay.
which hasn't been completed, or completed.
Okay.
So two main categories under primary.
Okay.
Okay, secondary market refers to you buying from an individual owner. So, and the third category is auction, where you're buying from a bank.
Right.
Yeah. So these are the main categories of, when you hear all these terms, what they are talking about.
Right. So sub-sale is in which one?
Sub-sale is secondary market.
Secondary. So you're buying off someone else.
Correct. You're buying it from an individual owner.
Okay. So what are the now let's get into a bit of the strategy portion of investing. So what are the risk and rewards for each three of these different segments?
Okay. Sub-sale market or secondary market is normally safe because supply and demand would have regulated the price.
It's proven.
It's proven. Yeah. You got, nearby units and all that to compare. So that's one of the safest market, but the potential for gain is also lesser.
Because it's already priced in a way.
Yeah, it's already priced in. It has been so-called
the uncertainty is quite low already at that point.
Yeah, it's
people know what it's worth roughly.
Yes, because you would have reference cases of transaction around also.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's the safest market to go. But primary market is more risky because currently developer kind of can name any price. Of course, they are still governed by, in terms of valuation. Banks will still check with valuers on their opinion whether to accept the price range proposed by the developers for them to agree on giving financing or not. Okay, but the range can be quite wide. Okay, you can look at an area. For example, today you look at Ara Damansara or Subang.
Yeah,
you can see projects that ranges from probably, for example, 600 plus per square foot all the way to 900 and 1,000. Then how do you know what is the right price point to purchase? So the risk is higher when it comes to primary market. Buying off from developer. So that requires a lot more research.
Right.
Good point.
Okay. So in FAR Capital, we have a 7 criteria rule to assess properties. One of the most important rules is what we call the median price.
Yes, I went to one of your free workshops, and that was the biggest takeaway for me because people always talk about the price of the property or the location. There's a location, but you guys focus on the median price. So share with us, what really that is.
So when you look at median, median is the 50 percentile, meaning for that comparable product. Okay, you have an area median, meaning, for example, you are today in Petaling Jaya. There is a median price for the entire area where if you line up all the transaction, you put them in sequence, in the middle, that is the price point where half of the people in Petaling Jaya are willing to pay more for a property in that area. So we first have an area median.
Okay.
To give you an example, Johor as a state, median is 350,000. So that gives you a sense that in the entire state, half of the people actually bought property below 350,000, another half willing to pay more.
Yes.
Right? So that gives you a gauge of safety when you want to buy something in Johor. So, but when it comes to median, if you want to drill down to that particular property that you want to buy, first thing you got to identify comparable products. If you're buying a 3-bedroom, then you got to look at comparable products, 3-bedroom. If it is walkable to certain public transport, which is a huge factor to the price, you must find, similar products. There are 2 ways of looking at median. Okay, one is per square foot. Another one is absolute price. Okay, what's the difference is absolute price takes into the account of layout efficiency.
Okay.
3-bedroom apartment can range from 750 square feet, all the way to 1,000, 3,005 square feet, and it's still the same 3-bedroom apartment. Okay, but the absolute price is very different. So it is quite an extensive study.
Very data driven.
Data driven. That's why we employ a research team. To do this. So if you're on an individual investor basis, you would most likely only be looking at a certain area, and it is possible to do this.
Yes.
Okay. Transaction price point data is available at public domain like Bricks.
Yeah.
You can pay for subscription, you get all the data. Yeah. So, but it requires work.
Yes.
Right.
Just like any other form of investment.
Of course.
Must do
homework.
Right.
Yeah. So that is, if you ask me, the key safety level that you must establish before you buy any property.
What about auction? I mean, since primary it's risky.
Riskier?
No. So let's recap. Secondary market is the safest.
Yes.
Yeah.
Primary is riskier.
Yes.
And I'm guessing auction is the riskiest. Am I right to say this?
Okay. For auction, there are a few things that you must be aware. Number one is the capital requirement. Okay, there are a few things right now. First, it's on an as-is basis, meaning if you are unable to inspect the property before you make the bid, you have to accept whatever condition that's inside.
Okay, and most of the time, will you be having the opportunity to inspect
No.
it? Okay, so I would say 90% of the time you won't be able.
You won't be able to. You won't be able to.
Okay.
Second thing is the capital requirement. For auction property, it's compulsory to place 10% down payment
So of the property price.
of the
Auction.
eventual purchase price, because it's a bidding process, right?
Oh yeah. Ooh.
Okay, so but then the bidding always starts at a
Reserve price.
reserve price, right? But then if it's at eventual, then how do you
You still have to top up the difference.
Ooh.
So when you bid, you got to place a banker's check, or I think they're still doing that right now,
Yeah.
of 10% of reserve price.
I see.
Then they bid. Then if you win, then you got to top up the difference within a certain timeline.
I see.
You need to pay for all the legal fees.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest uncertainty here, that's why if you are looking into auction property, please make sure you read the proclamation of sale very, very carefully, especially on the part on outstanding payments.
So
A lot of these auction property have huge areas in maintenance fee, quit rent, and assessment.
and the term and probably to MJ's benefit, the term that they like to use, and correct me if I'm wrong, is encumbrances. When I first read that, right, I was like, what the hell? I had to Google it, right? It's the encumbrance. All these outstanding payments. You think of it is like debt for
Liability lah. You are buying a business with debt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're buying a property with debt.
Yeah.
So depending on which bank is auctioning,
Yeah.
some banks will cover full amount
Yeah.
of areas. Some banks will cover up to a certain percentage of the eventual purchase price. Some banks don't cover at all. And even if the banks cover it, you need to pay first, then reimburse. So the capital upfront required for auction purchase is not a joke.
Then why would people go into auction?
Because they are some cases able to buy way below market, right? You can buy 40, 50% below market.
Right.
It is a good opportunity if you have that capital. It's a very good game for people who have a lot of cash.
I see.
A lot of people make good money out of it.
I
So
see.
it's just a different form.
And strategy as well.
Yeah, it's a different strategy. There are risks, but of course, if you are regularly into the game, you would normalize your. You would have good deals where you make a lot, not so good deals where you make lesser, and it would normalize, and it would still come up to be pretty decent. But the requirement upfront is the cash.
And probably a lot of these wealthy people already have either the sub-sale or even about to be completion kind of properties, giving them that cash to play the auction market. Is that what a lot of these
Normally,
guys do?
it's more suited for experienced
Right.
investors, right?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, there are many ways that you can raise cash. You can bring a few friends together and do it, and then you sell, and then you roll over to the next one. A lot of people or even groups are doing it.
Yeah.
So it is not a good or bad kind of thing.
Yep.
It's just to understand for each category, what are the pros and cons,
Yep.
what are the resources required, limitations, and the risk involved. Then you go in with your eyes wide open.
Right.
Know the rules of the game for each niche.
Correct. So there are different, classes and people talking about all these different topics. So that's why knowledge learning is still the
Yeah.
first step.
Yeah.
The
Right.
most important step.
But you would not recommend this to the beginner lah for auction, right?
No. Unless you are in my situation where you are able to step into the house and see the condition, right? You know clearly, you're guided by someone who knows clearly what's
I
going
think
to
that
happen.
the key was guided.
Yeah.
Correct.
Because that's what I wanted to ask you, because you said that it was more for experience, but your first
Yeah,
was
was
an
auction.
yes. But
That's
I was
very interesting.
guided,
Yeah,
you see.
but you had a
Yeah.
certain advantage lah that most
Correct.
people won't have lah.
Correct.
Okay. So one of the things I still remember at the free talk that I went for Faizul was he mentioned the median income, but he also introduced, I don't know, and please correct me right if I'm wrong. He also said that you need to measure what people living in that area can afford.
Yes.
Because that will determine whether how easy you can get rental,
Correct.
and it also determines
Subsequent buyer.
Yeah.
Mm.
So you wanna can you expand a little bit more about that?
So we do look at areas, but for income wise, we're looking at state level
State level, okay.
median income, and then from that income, we take 30%. Meaning when we translate that monthly income, we take 30%, assuming that that's the healthy level of your monthly commitment going towards accommodation.
30% of that state medium income as
Yeah.
income.
So that gives you a general sense of what is the affordability level
Yeah.
for properties in that state.
So of course then you zoom into like Selangor. Obviously there's a different profile for
Different
people in
areas.
KL and Puchong
Yeah.
and Damansara and PJ and all that, right?
Yeah. So for income, some of these we have data, some are not so easy to get.
Yeah.
Right. So another way to look at it is to assess the transaction prices
Right.
and rental.
Mm.
So we look at these two to try and derive.
So I just had a thought, right? So if you're analyzing Miri property, you just have to check how much Shell is paying, since a lot of people.
No, Miri is out of norm.
Yeah. It's an anomaly.
It's an
actually.
anomaly.
Right.
Yeah.
Actually, Bintulu is the other one.
Bintulu, even
You'll be surprised Bintulu rentals are even crazier than Kuching. And it's a capital because of Shell and Petronas.
Right.
So these are anomalies, but with places with anomaly, the risk normally is they are driven by single industry,
Yes.
right? So when you look at areas like Bintulu or Miri or Melaka, they are primarily driven by one single industry.
Yeah.
And when certain things hit, like COVID,
Yeah.
Oh.
that's where the risk. That's why we don't believe in investing in industry-driven kind of city or location.
You want a more diversified one, like KL and all that.
Correct. That's why
Actually, US also already had a lot of this. You know the Rust Belt?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oil and gas.
Oil and
and all
gas.
that.
Detroit.
Yeah. Car.
Detroit, the cars.
auto manufacturers.
Yes, and I think a few big ones hypes today are areas like Pengerang.
Yep.
Oh yeah, Johor.
Yeah, Johor. The other one that I can think of, and Amanda, you can add in, Kerteh in Terengganu, and also Dungun, where all the oil is literally Kemaman, all the single industry
Yeah, single
driven.
industry driven.
Ah,
There is always the risk,
Yeah.
right? Of course, the upside, if it
materializes.
is very, very good.
Yeah.
But right now we're looking at that kind of oil price environment, or if you bought in Desaru tourism,
Oh yeah.
Malacca tourism, right? Then you are your risk is actually quite high.
Yeah.
So in a way, you're advising people not to depend on that single factor to.
One of our 7 criteria is called multiple rental option. So in multiple rental option, we look at different categories. First is you must be able to target different industries or different use, right? If you buy a property that can only generate good returns when you can run Airbnb, it's not very good today.
I see.
Right. So for us, any property that we get our clients to invest in must have that option of multiple industry, multiple rental strategy, can rent long-term, short-term, whole house, per room.
Right.
Right. This is why we are also quite transit-oriented.
That means, i.e., you need to be near like
Public
LRT,
transport.
public transport.
Yes. Because with public transport, it gives you the multiple industry.
Right.
Right. And you are, even if your property is situated in a certain location, your target tenant is no longer bound by that geographical location because people can commute.
So a guy like Puchong can actually work in KLCC because of the MRT.
Yes, and he can live in Puchong.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So another key thing when it comes to transit is they don't need to own a car, which easily costs between 800 to 1,000.
And they can
North.
afford the house.
A higher
better.
rent.
Wow. Okay, so just a random thought. So, but then, if let's say you were investing in Singapore, this criteria wouldn't be too relevant, yes?
Because it's generally
it's good
applicable.
transport.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
it's just good public transport everywhere.
Just a random thought. So in a way,
yes.
in a way, your strategy hinges on Malaysia not being too well connected, like in a way, because then you get to choose those who are near public transport versus those that are not, lah.
Yeah. I mean, for us, even in Singapore, you would have properties that is walkable to the MRT station versus properties that require connecting bus rides, right?
Yeah.
So the commute time would be the consideration then.
Right.
If you add on a bus ride of 20 minutes versus you being able to walk straight to the
station.
MRT station, then there is still a difference.
So there's that aspect as well, lah.
Yes.
It's not as pronounced as Malaysian one,
Correct.
but definitely is there as well.
Yeah.
Definitely is there.
Okay, so now let's talk about one thing I noticed a lot of my friends or people I know that are in property investing, and the phrase going around now in the market, which I'm very sure you guys are also aware, is that it is a renter's market, they call it, right?
Yes.
That it is better to
Rent.
rent. And I would say generally that's probably true. But from a property investor's perspective, right? Because a low rent only like benefits the renter, right? So from the properties investor's perspective, he wants the rent to be higher or at least matching installment, as they like to say, or even higher than that. But that seems to me a bit of a challenge for a lot of people that I know that are in property investing. So how do you put yourself in a situation as an investor where the rent can match or even exceed the installments and provide that monthly cash flow?
First is to buy at the right price.
So how
Right.
do we get the right price?
Median.
Oh.
So a lot of people, you know, I think, was it Warren Buffett who said it? You the value of what you
Price is what you pay, value is what you get.
Yes.
and you actually lock in the gain or any potential to make profit at the point of purchasing,
Yep.
not selling.
Yep.
Right. So when you buy at the right price, you know over time, right? Then it becomes a when question rather than, what if?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, including myself, when I made the wrong purchases, right, we get stuck because we bought at the wrong price.
All right.
So when you buy at the right price, your probability of having break even or positive cash flow becomes a lot better. Then, of course, you look at maximizing the rental income. Now, do you rent your property empty? Which a lot of people are doing.
Yeah.
Right? Because they are unable to look past the short-term financial suffering of paying for
Expenses,
renovation.
yes.
Right, no, yeah.
Right? But they don't understand the long-term benefit of actually doing that. Now, if your house is, for example, now basic or partial furnished, right? You can rent it, for example, to 1,500.
Yeah.
When you do a complete full furnishing with some design elements, you are able to rent it at 2,500. So the cash flow difference is already 1,000.
Right.
But the real question here is this. All of us eventually may look at selling our property. As a property owner, you have you have that obligation to uphold the property value,
Yeah.
right? So your potential purchaser can be an own stay or a investor.
Yep.
When your rental is 1,500, how much would a person be willing to pay for a property? Versus when your rental is 2,500.
Obviously, the 2005.
That's a 1,000, okay? At 1,500, when you translate into today's installment versus loan amount, we are looking at approximately 370,000, okay? 2,500 is approximately 600,000.
Yeah.
That's the value difference.
Yeah.
Or because you decided to
To
spend
furnish it.
a little bit more now
Yes.
to make it look better. And
It's a lot of people don't realize, as a property owner, you have that obligation to
I
uphold,
think this is key.
preserve, uphold, and maximize the value of the property collectively, right? And when you have irresponsible owners within the building, bringing in bad tenants, throwing prices and all that, it ruins the entire market.
right. So
This is
I think that ties back into our earlier discussion about delayed gratification. I think this is
Yeah.
a form as well, right?
Yeah.
Because
correct.
why spend my
Actually, it's capex, If you think of
Yeah,
it, if
yeah.
you're running, because when you are investing in properties, you think of your properties as your
Restaurant.
restaurant. And would you rather go to a restaurant that is well
I always use this analogy in
Yeah.
my classes for our clients, right?
Yeah.
You sell nasi lemak. You sell at roadside, 2 ringgit.
Ah.
Madam Kwan,
Oh,
25 ringgit.
10x.
Okay? What's the difference? It's the environment,
Yeah.
right? It's the place, it's the location. It's the same for your property. So are you looking at maximizing the value that you can get out of your nasi
Right.
lemak, or you want to sell it at roadside?
right. So, sticking on to the discussion about rental and installment and all that, some people's response to that is even they don't want to do what you're saying, but
Yeah.
they are willing to, so to speak, tahan the cash flow, the cash flow outflow, so that because they know, maybe they think that it's a good area, so eventually the capital gains will actually overtake whatever losses that they will have if maybe they flip it in 5, 10, 15 years now, whatever it is. So my question to you is, I think there's a discussion also within the property community of cash flow versus capital appreciation, right? In stocks, there's something similar also with dividends and capital gains. So where do you sit in terms of that discussion? Like, is it better to find properties where the cash flow can, of course, the idea is for both good rental and good appreciation.
Yep.
But if you could only pick one, where will you be on the spectrum on that? Like, do you say, you know what, there's only so much I can do. Maybe I'm a bit busy. I cannot analyze too much about median prices and all that. So I'm willing to say I will tahan the negative cash
If
flows.
you don't have time to research, then
Right.
become my client,
Ah,
right? We don't believe in picking one,
Yeah.
right.
right? It's always about striking the balance,
Okay.
right? So, but if you have that mentality where I tahan and all that, it's
Yeah.
because you are overlooking, you are not looking at the collateral damages that come from it. You think about the kind of tenant who can afford to pay you 1,500 versus 2,500. Do they look different?
Oh, very.
Oh yeah, of course.
Versus the
Yeah.
guy who's paying you 500 ringgit a month.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? It's a completely different profile that you are targeting. Think about the kind of people that you bring into the development, into your community. Do you want to bring the best tenants that you can find, which can potentially buy your property? Or you want to buy someone, or a different kind of profile.
Yeah, very short term, just to make sure cash flow is running.
And it's still negative, right?
Yeah.
So the damage is in this first. Second, when I talk about upholding the value. So a lot of people don't look at this. They look at that short term, I don't want to spend 30,000, right? But they don't look at over the long term. Are you doing the best decision to preserve and uphold and to even grow the value of your property as a community?
Just a follow on that point, which is a very good point. Out of a sampling of all your clients or people in the community that you've met in property investing, right? What would a ballpark figure be? The guys who are in that mindset that they're willing to spend to uphold or to bring it up, or those that are like for the lack of a better word, kiam siap lah, or stingy.
Yeah. Kedekut.
Kedekut.
Um,
Ballpark. That doesn't mean
20%.
20% willing, 80%. Wow.
Burrito,
This is
man.
why,
Yeah, Pareto principle.
yeah, you look at the listings available, for example, in iProperty for certain
Right,
project, you're
right.
going to see that straight away,
I see.
right? And people who are in that 80% are in the red ocean. I mean, what kind of differentiation factor can you have if you only have lights and fans,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I agree. Like there's more light coming from the sun actually in their photos.
And when you're in that position, then your only only factor is price.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You go into a bidding war.
Is
with,
it you create a commodity lah?
Yeah.
You become a commodity. But
Yeah.
when you are in that 20%,
Right.
you start to trigger your tenants to make emotional decisions already.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah. That's the key, guys.
That's
That is
the
the
key.
secret, right?
Yeah. You sell based on emotions rather than.
You always make your best sale
Mm.
by triggering emotions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, you know, I just a quote, and ironically, it's about cars, right? So there was this documentary on Netflix that talked about supercars. They said,
Okay.
so he talked about the Bugatti Veyron, and when it was first created, right, people say you're crazy, you know. They said, "Oh, guys, we're not selling this to the guy looking for the car to go from A to B. You know, it is an emotional purchase.
Mm-hmm.
The
Yeah,
guy
yeah.
it
It's a
has to-
trophy purchase.
yeah, it's a trophy purchase.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and you also know, right? Like you brought up renting and buying, you know, before 40, right? Like it ties into what you're saying, like, because when people start off and they first get their salary, and then maybe especially for guys, they get a girlfriend, and then they wanna make sure that the family is happy.
want to flex a little bit.
Want to flex or that. So yeah, so all the flexing, you guys are there to take advantage there, so to speak lah.
You mean in terms of tenant, huh?
In terms of building the dream for them. But what's the word she used? The
Brightness
future.
of future.
Brightness of the future.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay, so sticking to investment strategy, so we talked a lot about the stages of a residential property, right?
Yeah.
Now let's shift even before that to the differentiation between residential and commercial. Like for example, this place that we're in now is a commercial property, right?
Yeah.
So do you all do both residential and commercial? And if so, or whether you guys do it or not, what are your understanding of the differences between both of them?
So generally, there are 4 types of properties, right? You got residential, meaning for dwelling,
Okay.
Yeah.
accommodations. Then you have commercial properties that cover things like shops, offices.
Okay.
Okay. Then you have industrial.
Okay.
And then finally you have land.
Mm.
Okay. So for commercial, right now we are not for FAR Capital, we are only focusing on residential, right? I am personally heavily vested in commercial, which has burned me a lot of money.
Oh, we're gonna go deeper into that
Alright.
later, but come back to the
sure.
the fourth
Don't
first.
interrupt.
Yeah.
But because I don't have experience in
Yeah.
industrial and land yet,
Yeah.
right? So I don't think I can talk much about it. lah.
Okay.
So in terms of residential, commercial, the key thing is predictability,
Mm.
right? Have you ever seen a residential property being put up for rent for free?
No. Not from my experience.
Yeah. Have you seen commercial properties put up for rent for free?
Yes.
Yeah. So that shows the risk level in between these two. So for us at this moment, we don't have a formula for commercial because it's the level of uncertainty and it's just too high.
I see.
Right.
Okay. You can't say corner lot will definitely be the best.
Mm.
You can't even say that main road facing will definitely be the best.
Mm.
It's too dynamic, right? It depends on which anchor tenant falls on which lot.
Yeah.
There's just too much things that's beyond your control.
Mm.
Yeah.
So this is why we are not touching, as a company, as a community, we're not touching commercial property at all. Personally, I'm invested, lost a lot of money, which is a story that I share with my clients every week, right? To make people realize that, you know, it's cool to to be a commercial property investor, but technically speaking, in terms of returns,
What got you into it? Is it because you got to a point where you said you had enough residential, that's why you wanted to venture into commercial?
this is when, your overconfidence brings you into trouble, right? Because you thought that whatever that worked there is going to work here.
I see.
So right now, I just tell my clients, okay, if you have a lot of money that you don't mind burning, by all means, go ahead lah. Okay. Or the only other case that I would, support their commercial property purchase is if they run a business
Okay.
and they require a premise.
Ah.
That's the only situation where I say, okay, go ahead. Right. Other than that, there's really no reason. I know residential property is not cool.
Yeah,
Right? It's boring.
it's basic. Right?
It's very basic. But if your aim is to build a retirement fund or children's education fund or to, generate
You
good
want things
returns,
to be basic,
make
right?
money, you want it to be predictable.
Yeah.
Plain
Yeah.
vanilla.
Correct. Yeah.
And what you're describing to me, the uncertainty existed before COVID, right?
Before COVID.
Yeah.
So COVID pretty
Just
much
Makes it worse.
compounded.
It's like a heroin,
Steroids.
steroids.
Yeah, man.
So now it's even worse.
Yes.
People are all working from home.
Yeah.
Okay. There is a two-way direction that we're seeing in terms of office space requirement because you do need a bigger office because of social distancing.
Okay.
But we are also seeing that this trend of working from home
That's interesting. Yeah.
is becoming a permanent feature.
Mm.
All right. I don't think it's gonna go away.
I see.
Yeah. There will this element of working from home, it's permanently stuck with
I see.
most of the
Right.
companies,
I see.
Right.
even when COVID is over.
Yeah.
Yeah. And another interesting thing is the need for retail space.
Mm.
For example, F&B. You can now operate a restaurant from your home.
Yes. I just ordered a cake from a terrace house.
Yeah. Right.
They're like the fridge and all that inside.
With food delivery services,
Yes.
you no longer need a prominent location for your restaurant.
Because you don't need footfall traffic in a way.
You don't need it anymore.
Yeah.
Right. Worse off for retail.
Mm.
Right. People are all now buying things from
Lazada,
online, Lazada,
Shopee.
Shopee.
Right.
Yeah. So the entire requirement and need for commercial property has changed drastically because of COVID.
Mm.
And would it be fair for me to say one way of looking at what you describe is it's easier to be in the head of someone who wants to rent or stay, but it's harder to be in the head of an anchor tenant or a McDonald's or a Tesco or a business, right? Because the complexity is so high.
And they have to adapt, right? And they are investing. Okay, if you're renting a house to a family, they are not technically not investing into this particular
Right.
arrangement. Right?
Right.
They just bring their luggage and they come in. They pay you a form of deposit. They pay you some deposit and then they move in. Deposit is refundable.
Mm.
But when you rent a property to a business, they are actually putting in way more money than you
Renovation.
operating expenditure
Yeah.
and all that. Your rental is only a small component of their, running costs.
Mm.
So their consideration is very different compared to a family that's trying to rent a house.
Mm.
Yeah.
So this is why, and now we are even seeing things like, restaurants that used to have, street front kind of location, now renting back small corner, small lots just to run kitchen,
Yeah.
a delivery kitchen.
Mm.
Yeah, even like us, right? In this
Yeah.
space is 10 by 10. Literally, this is 10 by 10. It's
100
as square
square
as it gets. 100 square feet, right? And we're not taking the whole office here,
Yeah.
just this small part. So I'm just curious to know, right, about that that foray into commercial properties that you made, that you were talking about, where you always share with your clients that there were some mistakes made on the way and then you lost money on it. Do you mind sharing with us what happened basically?
Basically, I sold most of my profiting residential properties and I started buying shops.
Okay.
The range is quite diverse. You know, I've bought 500,000 shops, 1 million shops, 2 million shops, even an office unit.
Mm.
So, but the problem is, for those in matured location are doing okay,
Mm.
right? but those in a new location is suffering very badly. So, but I'm stuck with it for the next 20 years in a way. So, it was, of course, while one thing is the lack of, insufficient due diligence,
Right.
I guess. But for the properties that is making me lost the most money was also because the developer sold the entire township.
Ooh, okay.
Okay, they only developed the first few phases. It's a branded developer, which is why we bought into that property in the first place.
So you were buying the reputation of the
If you
brand.
mention the name, everyone will know that kind of.
I don't think I should.
Yeah, you shouldn't. Yeah, you shouldn't.
Yeah, it's
But it's
a
at that
name.
level, lah.
Yeah, it's a household developer brand.
Okay.
They sold the entire development to a new foreign developer who was unable to secure any end financing in Malaysia. So all the subsequent phases are stuck because they built the commercial shop. The next phase is supposed to be condominiums and mixed development to bring in the people who are going to consume. Going to spend money at the shops. So without all this residential, then the entire town is just dead lah.
Yeah. So when you say it's because you mentioned it's stuck with you for 20 years, what does that mean? Does that mean that you are unable to sell it? Or?
Unable to sell because today's value is way lower than my loan amount.
Oh gosh.
Oh man. So I think this is a great lesson for like a lot of people because they think that when they buy a property,
confirm make money, huh? No. No.
And this is coming from a property expert. Guys.
Yeah. That's why today I'm the most kiasi, takut mati person in FAR Capital.
Yeah.
Yeah, because of what I went through, and I vow not to let any of my clients go through the same.
Because you know why, MJ? I was with her on one of the shopping tours in Johor. Remember the SP? The one we went, Sierra Padana. Yeah.
Hey, giving hints, John?
No, this one is okay.
This one's okay.
This is a $500,000 mass market price point shop. Along highway.
And front facing highway.
It's again, not making money.
Yeah.
But it's not something that I lose money and lose sleep for.
The damage is not as substantial.
Not as substantial.
All right.
Yeah.
So it was one of the things that I also wanted to dig deeper on these lessons, right? Was it in a way, if you don't mind me asking this, was it when you got to a point where you were already successful in your plain vanilla, there was this itch that you wanted to scratch to try something new?
Yes.
Okay.
I even bought a house in Australia. I mean, we bought a piece of land and built a house in Australia.
Yeah.
But that's the itch that, now I am trying to cure for my clients.
Yeah. So how will you encourage people to, I wouldn't say stop trying to scratch that itch, but what are the lessons that you want to impart that when they want to scratch that itch, they have to be aware of this,
So I just, I'm just honest with them. I tell them what happened with my investments. And the worst thing, I brought in people, right? If me alone, fine. But now I have friends and family who are stuck together, which makes it 10 times worse.
Yeah.
So I tell them honestly my story. And my question to them is, can you guarantee that it's going to do better than this plain vanilla? Right? If not, just stick to this. Right? So you just have to stick to the boring game that is more predictable and safe.
Great.
Unless you're at a point that you don't care about losing 1 million, then go ahead.
Yeah, you've probably net worth of 10, 20 million, then
then you can go ahead. Yeah.
You mentioned something about how the developer, right, was instrumental in basically screwing this up, right?
Yeah.
So, going back to residential properties, right, in your experience and the experience of FAR, do you find, what are some of the most common ways developers try to screw their...
Okay. The experience that I had was, truth to be told, quite rare. Okay. And so in order to not get into that,
Yeah.
we stick to matured locations,
Right.
right? Then you are not at risk of being abandoned, of the developer abandoning ship lah. And secondly, also we vet through, the developers that we work with.
I see.
And one key thing, especially for new investors, you want to avoid getting into a problem, is to always buy properties under the Housing Development Act.
What do you mean by that? Can you give more color to that?
So under the Housing Development Act, it protects all residential property development. Okay, the SPA, Sales and Purchase Agreement, is standard. No developer can change any clause inside. Okay, so it's controlled by the government, and government also collects a performance bond from the developer, and they also control the cash inflow and outflow for that particular company. So the developer will not be able to siphon money out, and which leads to the risk of abandonment if they do that. So if you recall, 10-15 years ago, we have a lot of abandoned projects.
Yes.
That was developed before this act was implemented. So right now, you rarely hear residential property being abandoned.
I see.
That's good.
Because it's now protected. Right. So for new investors, stick to a project under HDA.
How will you be able to check?
Yeah.
Just ask the developer.
Okay.
They come with this thing called the APDL, Advertising Permit and Developer's License. Okay. When you look at a property brochure at the bottom, there should be this.
And it
there's
comes
a
with a
bar
serial.
with a small it's a serial number of approval.
Okay.
Yes, that's the one.
I see.
Those are governed by, so that is a safer investment, because one thing a lot of people are not aware, non-HDA projects, which are typically your commercial properties, maybe your SOVO, all this borderline grey area stuff. SPA, when it's not governed, not controlled by the government, the developer has the right to put in any term. For example, under HDA, SPA, you sign SPA, developer can claim 10%.
Okay.
Complete foundation, another 10%. Right? Complete structure to your unit, 15%. It is all controlled. Right? Under commercial property, the developer can draft the schedule in any way that they like.
Wow.
The shop lot that I bought, at the point that they started structure, they already claim a complete structure, they claim 50% already.
You must be kidding.
A started structure, sorry. Clear land, 1%. Start foundation, another percentage. Start structure, another percentage.
Wow.
So if you're
So
not
you are-
experienced,
correct.
right? My goodness, you don't even understand value of work done or milestones, typical milestones.
And
then
that leads to your progressive interest, right? Because your loan gets drawn from the bank and then you have to pay interest for it. So it's very risky.
Right.
So in a way, the government already create the sandbox.
Correct.
Play within the
Within
sandbox.
that.
So you would say that there are still property developers today operating outside this act?
Of course, the commercial properties.
Oh.
Because
they
it's
are
only for
legally-
residential,
It's only
mah?
for residential.
So that's why lah.
That's why, like, if I'm not mistaken, Amanda, there was a time when she was guiding me on buying, I think, a unit that was commercial title.
Right.
It's not residential title. So that was when we had to be more careful in reading
You
the
really have to look at the schedule
SPA,
and the
yeah.
SPA.
So why don't they extend this to commercial then, or any other form of properties? In your view, of course.
Of course, when you look at a free market, right, a capitalism free market, there is always the danger of over-regulating.
I see.
So I guess in the government's eyes, residential property is the roof.
Yeah.
It's a basic necessity.
I see.
Hence the
okay.
need to regulate tightly and protect the interests of the buyers. Commercial property is deemed to be sold as, to people who are sort of wealthier, who wants to take the risk. Hence, not as tightly regulated.
Free market forces.
It's a free market.
I see.
So that's how I believe that's how the government views it, and they are not wrong.
Yeah. Makes sense. Cannot be too
If you over-regulate, then you're gonna have a situation where a lot of developers don't want to play in this field. Then you're gonna have a shortage of supply.
Then prices.
Right.
Price point will shoot up. Rental of commercial property will shoot up, which translates to your goods prices.
Yeah.
As well. So I think as much as possible as a government, they would,
economics in one sentence.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay,
Yeah.
so now before we end, this is the final question, right? Where are we heading at this point as the Malaysian property market? What do you see 1 to 5 years ahead from today? What are the big trends?
We have been on a downturn for approximately, I think, three to 4 years down
Okay.
cycle. Definitely hitting bottom already.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Our company is predicting that a property bull run it will happen in the next 18 to 24 months.
Okay.
Okay. Low interest rate. There are several factors. The key one is low interest rate. Because now you can buy relatively cheaper. And if you observe the global market, there are already several countries of low interest rate experiencing property bull run, the start of the bull run, including Singapore and US, and if I'm not mistaken, Germany.
Okay.
All right. So with those evidence, we are even more confident that it is on the way. So today is probably one of the best time that you have seen since 2008, 2009. In terms of the deals that you can find, because a lot of developers are still in a fearful mode, uncertainty. Tight banks are still very tight in terms of lending.
Okay.
Credit policies are still very, very tight, but it's getting better. Okay, so this is a very good time to start buying. Okay, so with easing of regulation, Banjana and all that, allowing people on third property to get more than 70% loan, HOC, waiving the stamp duty, right, and all that. So it makes it easier for buyers to own. So all this will lead to the start of the bull run.
Okay.
Interesting.
So that is our prediction, and we're already seeing evidences of it happening.
That's good.
Yeah. So while on the surface or onset it looks bad, right? But market is definitely recovering. We're already seeing, it's even getting tougher to hire people now.
Huh.
Really?
So the fallacy about unemployment, in a way, you're already seeing evidences on the ground that is contrary to that.
I mean, it's a very good sign that we are we are at the start of the recovery, right?
I think for stocks as well,
Yeah.
the recovery guys are also making a comeback. Padini has done pretty well
On
last 3
an
4 months.
uptrend already. Yeah.
Yeah.
Revenge spending.
Correct.
I do have one question related to this though. Remember we talked about the premise that people should not buy their own. It's always a big debate. They say that if I don't buy my property now, earlier, right, and I wait till 40, then the property prices have been too expensive. And related to what you said about the bull run, and it's gonna fly, right? What would you say to that to people with that kind of argument?
I'm not saying don't buy property. I'm just saying don't buy property and
Stay.
with the pretext of I'm going to stay, right? With money, you can live anywhere you like.
Yeah.
So the key thing is to buy property that can make you money.
Right.
And with that rental income, go rent whichever that suits your current needs.
Yeah.
Right, depending on your current situation, whether you have kids and all that, where you want to be.
Yes.
And keep that flexibility.
Yeah.
Because so we have 3 criteria for own stay property. Right, we want to make it easy for people to mitigate the risk.
Okay.
We've just seen too many people who lost money because of emotional
Yes.
purchases, right?
Yes.
So the 3 criteria are very simple. Can sell, meaning when you want to sell it, you are not buying at the wrong price. You can sell it without making loss.
Yeah.
Can rent. Rental must be able to cover minimum 70% of installment. So the problem with a lot of people's first home, own stay home purchase, they go and buy landed property. And for whatever reason that they cannot go and stay, and they have to rent it out, the rental yield is very low.
Yeah.
Then they suffer.
Yeah.
Okay. And the third thing, can stay.
Mm.
You don't mind staying there.
Mm.
If it fulfills these 3 criteria, it's a good first property.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? Because you will never get into a trouble of, buying overpriced property, cannot rent, cannot sell,
Yeah.
and you cannot go and stay.
Yeah.
Right.
Actually, MJ, I don't know whether I told you this story, and I think I want to share this with the audience. I have her to thank for my current place that I stay. And the reason why was when I first moved to KL in 2012, I had a budget of 500,000 to 600,000 to look for a 3-bedroom. Okay, so I went all the way to Wangsa Maju. You know, she was on the phone.
500 to 600,000, meaning the property value. You're
Absolute,
looking at
absolute,
that.
yeah,
Right,
yeah,
okay.
right. So I went to Wangsa Maju, Bangsa, Taman Desa, and all that kind of thing. And you know, I was on the phone with her and getting her advice and all that. And she said one thing. She said, "If you're gonna get a condo, would you get a condo in a place where there's very little condo, or a lot of condo?" So it got me stumped for a while, and I asked her why, and she said, "If you get a place where there's a lot of condos, what happens to the upkeep and maintenance of the condo? Everyone is competing to uphold the value. And because of that, you get higher standards." And true enough, I was like, that's where it led me to Mont Kiara. And when I bought it, it was actually cheaper than Subang.
Yes.
In terms of per square feet.
wow.
Mont Kiara,
Yeah.
Mont Kiara has been undervalued
Yes.
for at least 8 to 10 years.
Yeah.
I mean, at one point it was overvalued.
Yes.
Then it became it started the downtrend.
Yeah.
If you buy primary, there is still risk today.
Correct.
But sub-sale, very good value.
Very good.
And
yeah.
10 years ago, 8 years ago, we already see the trend. We already predicted that Mont Kiara would be one of the best choice for Malaysian own stay. People market it as expat area.
Yeah, but
That's true.
But we already saw it as a place that eventually...
We shouldn't promote too much, you know. You know why?
Why?
Then the prices will go up. Then you know.
Good for you, what?
True. But I don't want to sell. I like it so
he doesn't
much.
want the jam and all that.
Yeah, don't come to Mont Kiara. Go away.
Okay, with that, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I think this will be our longest podcast.
Oh, yeah.
This will be or at least top 2, definitely.
Yeah.
And before we go, where can people find you?
Yeah.
FAR Capital's Facebook page. It's FAR Capital. You can also find, if you want to know more about what we're doing, can follow my partner actually. He's more prominent on social media.
Yeah.
His name is Faizul Rizwan.
Yeah. And we're definitely bringing him on the show. That's
Yeah. So you can also find me on Facebook, Amanda Chong. Yeah. So I do post
Yes.
sparingly.
Yeah. So we'll put all the links in the comment section below for the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And guys, hope you get been thoroughly enlightened. I have. I think, I mean, this is the kind of content that really we want to put out to people, right? And rightly so, it should be free.
Yeah.
And guys, if you enjoyed it, remember, like, subscribe, usual stuff. And if you're on Spotify, follow us on Spotify if you haven't already. And guys, see you in the next podcast. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.